Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, A Handful of Daisies DIY. If you're new here, I'm Elaine. Thanks so much for stopping by today. This week we're going to be finishing up on the decoupage papers that I picked up several weeks ago. I have some fall ones that I need to get in my booth. So we're going to be making wall decor using two different backgrounds, and I'm going to use three different mediums to apply the decoupage. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around and let's get started. Our first project, we're going to be using these Luan boards that I picked up at Lowe's. I did cut them down to fit the papers. I believe they're about 24 inches long by 18 inches wide. I did pre-paint the boards using the Waverly white chalk paint, and we're going to be using polyacrylic on our first application to put down the papers. So I'm just going to line up the paper where I want it. I'm also going to be using these 1x2s that I cut to fit the board as well as a frame on this project. So I'm just going to move everything to the side and turn it around so I can flip the paper over. And I'm just going to hold down one side as I put the polyacrylic, just one section at a time. I am putting a fairly good amount of polyacrylic on the board, not so much as to soak the paper, because that will cause your paper to tear, but just enough to give it good adhesion to the board. And I'm also going to be using this plastic wrap to smooth it out on the board as well. I think that helps a lot, rather than using your fingers to spread it out without tearing the paper. So once I get the first section on, I'm just going to fold it back and then do sections at a time. I think doing it by sections like this helps to get all the wrinkles out and keep your paper from tearing. Now you can do it all at one time if you want, but I think it's a lot easier to do it this way. Now there's no way to get all the wrinkles out. Anytime you're using the liquid on the paper, it's going to create some wrinkles. You just have to smooth it out the best you can. But I think some of the wrinkles in papers like this actually create more dimension to the paper, and I like the way it looks. So any spaces that you find that maybe aren't down as well, you can go back and push those down. You can see I did tear the paper a little bit on that one side, but I was able to get it down to where you can't tell. And make sure as you're folding the paper back that you're getting your polyacrylic
down in that crease really well so you don't have any parts of it that don't have the polyacrylic. You'll have dry spots underneath. So once that's down really well, I'm going to put that to the side to dry, and then I'll come back and polyacrylic the top as well. Our next application, I'm going to be using the same pre-painted lawn board as I did before, but this time we're going to be using Loctite adhesive spray to hold down the paper. I wanted to try this application to see if it would help not have the wrinkles, because I really didn't want the wrinkles in this particular paper. So again, I'm just going to do one section at a time here and fold the paper down and spread it out. And then I'm going to turn it over and spray the other side. I am putting a pretty good coat of the adhesive spray on because I wanted to make sure I didn't have any patches, any dry patches. So I am going to come back with my plastic wrap and just make sure it's smoothed down really well. And I did tear the paper a little bit, but I was able to get it pushed back down in place, so I think it's going to be okay. Some of these papers are thinner than others. This one was fairly thin. Now I wanted to make sure this was sealed in really well, so I did end up using my polyacrylic on the top because I am selling these, so if someone were to wipe these off, they wouldn't be able to wipe just the paper. So putting the polyacrylic on top gives them a surface to be able to clean this piece off without worrying about damaging the paper. So I'm going to put that to the side to dry as well. Our next one, this is going to be the same application as the first. I just thought I'd show you this one as well. I am using the painted lawn board with the polyacrylic. And all of these, once they dry, I do go back and put polyacrylic on the top as well. The last set that we're going to be doing are using these canvases. I picked these up at Michael's. They were 5 in the pack and they were on sale for $9.99, which was a great price for the base of these wall art. I just love the sunflower paper. I think it's beautiful. Now I did make several of these. I am keeping one for myself, and then I am putting one in my booth as well. So for our third application, we're going to be using Mod Podge. So this is basically the same process as using the polyacrylic. You're just going to put a pretty good application on, not so much to make the paper soaked so it doesn't tear, but you do want to smooth it out really well. I think most people, when they're doing decoupage, use things like Mod Podge more than anything else. But I did want to try these 3 different types of applications to show you that you can use other things than just Mod Podge. Now, if you do want to make any of these projects on your own, I do have links down below in the description of where I picked these up at Salem. I'm just going to cut off the extra on the edges. I'm not worried about getting it completely to the edge because I am putting frame boards around it. So for the Luan boards, I'm using the 1x2s that I did cut down to size. I am just making a stain for these. I'm using Waverly ink, Waverly antique wax, and Waverly clear wax, and with some water to water it down. Now, as I'm doing these, they did come out a little bit darker than I wanted, so I ended up adding more water to it to thin it down as well. So it's really up to you how dark you want it as to how much of each thing you mix. So I'm just going to use the foam dabber to put it on, and then just a cloth. It's just a cotton cloth to wipe it back. So you can see I'm also spraying water on it as well to thin it down. Some of my projects I do like it to be this dark, but these particular projects I wanted it a little bit lighter. So sometimes you just have to mess around with it until you get exactly what you're looking for. So you can see how much lighter it is now that I added more water to it. It did thin it out a whole lot more. Now the next frames that I'm going to be putting on the canvases, they are trim pieces, so they're a whole lot thinner. I'm just going to put a clear coat on these. I'm not putting any stain on them. I wanted them to look more natural, so I'm just using the Waverly clear wax on these, and I'm just putting a couple of coats of that clear wax on. I'm just using the little wax brush. I did pick this up. I think I picked this one up at Walmart, but you can get some of the small brushes at Dollar Tree as well. So once those are all dry, I did take them down to my workshop, and I'm going to put them together using my brad nailer. On the 1x2s, I'm using 1.5" nails. And on this very first one I'm doing, I forgot to put the glue on there, but for the rest I did add wood glue to them as well. I ended up taking this one back apart and putting glue on it. So once I had it together, I just went ahead and put the board on top, and then I brad nailed the board onto the frame. Now once these were all done, I did come back and stain the back as well to match the frame. I do like to finish off all my projects front and back. So the next one I'm going to do is using the trim pieces to frame out the canvas. I did miter the edges of the trim pieces just because they're a whole lot thinner, and I thought they would look better being mitered. And I'm also changing my brad nails down to 3/4 inch. So always make sure you're changing out your nails to match the project that you're working on. So you can see I am using my wood glue this time. I'm not very good about closing my top properly, so I am off to the side trying to pick off all the dry glue on the top so I can get it open. So I'm just going to go ahead and nail the edges and then I'll come back and actually nail it to the frame on the canvas. Now I do have a board underneath there as well that's holding the canvas up a little bit, so the canvas is not laying flat on my table, so that helps to have my canvas about middle ways in that trim piece rather than being all the way at the back. Here's a look at how they all turned out. I did do a couple extra papers as well. Let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite and which application do you like the best.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you found some inspiration in the projects that we did today, and you'll take those and try to do them on your own. If you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join our DIY family so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Thanks again and have a great week.